friends, it is again time for a Floof and Feathers live stream drawing. I should say sometimes it's time for a Floof and Feathers drawing. I know I think it was the last week I wasn't able to do one. I did the week before, but I wasn't able to last Thursday. Still trying to get a more or less Thursday afternoon schedule going. So just thank you to any and all viewers for bearing with me there. So yeah, I appreciate your patience, but we are back this week. So, why don't we go ahead and actually, I'll just introduce myself for anyone new that might be watching. If you're not catching this in the actual live stream, if you're watching this on YouTube, then also thank you for joining me here. My name's Perry, and I write and illustrate the Floof and Feathers webcomic, which is a series I wouldn't say based on, but inspired by our real life pets, our two dogs and our cockatoo. Just kind of the antics that they get up to week to. So with that being started, this week, not really doing so much full as some of their habits. Uh, anyone who is familiar with the series, who has seen previous videos that are on Twitch or YouTube, probably knows that Finnegan is the fan of heavy rain thunderstorms, and unfortunately, it being the middle of summer in Northeast Ohio, we are getting a lot of thunder and heavy right now. So again, is not having a great time. I always regret whenever that happens. He likes to go into my fiance's closet and hide and sets up a nest of blankets and just wants to take some stuffed animals in with him and try to make a comfy, safe space for himself. So, that being the case, just with all of the inclement weather that we've been having, I thought it would be fun to do a little one-off comic for this week about our pets' various strategies for how to best survive through the bad weather. So, as you can see here, Finnegan's strategy is basically just to find somewhere to hide. Just drawing him under the couch there. Thankfully, he's not actually able to fit under our couch. That doesn't stop him from trying, of course, but the couch is a little too low to the ground for him, and he's a little too big to actually fit under there, which is probably for the best because I don't think that we would be able to drag him out from under the couch again if he did go down there to hide. Uh, Pippin, on the other hand, and you can see I'm drawing him here in panel 3, he does not seem nearly as bothered by bad weather as his big brother. He's still, I wouldn't say he's a fan of it, uh, but he doesn't have that urge to go and hide somewhere thundering. He just seems more kind of apprehensive and curious, but not really so much scared. So you can see his strategy here is really just to sleep through it whenever there's a bad storm. And position I'm drawing here, where you can see he's just sort of laying on his back in a melted puddle. It's not as much of an exaggeration as you would think. This is pretty much what he actually does look like when he falls asleep. They always like to joke that cats are a liquid because they just sort of melt and take the shape of whatever container they're laying in. If that's the case, then I think Pippin might be part cat somewhere because he seems to have that same problem with keeping a consistent shape to his features. He just sort of melts and goes into a puddle whenever he lays down somewhere. He's only shaped like a dog when it's convenient for him to look like a dog. Otherwise, he's just kind of a blob of what looks like melted caramel, really, for the most part. I'll go ahead and just draw him lounging in his dog bed here. Sure, we put in those lines for color of his fur. Sometimes I do forget to do that. Go, there's one leg. Do this side. Yeah, Pippin for the most part, he sleeps through a lot of stuff. Other things, he gets very alert. Last night there was actually a, not sure, I think it was someone who was probably speeding or something, but it was around like 3 in the morning. The police pulled someone over in front of our house, and of course Pippin was right on it. He let us know something was going on and was just at the window next to our bed, barking and keeping an eye on things. Which we're not going to tell him to stop. Not going to fault him for that. It's something he probably should let us know about. But see, that's the kind of thing that gets his attention, not so much thunder and lightning and rain. That he's not really. Well, I shouldn't say he's not bothered by it. He definitely doesn't like it, but that's just because of the fact that it means that he can't spend all day playing outside, which is really what he wants. That's the only part about thunder and lightning and rain that I think he really cares about is just the fact that he doesn't get his 12 hours a day outside when the weather's like that. Which, granted, I understand. He really likes when the weather is nice and in the middle of summer, and he wants to enjoy it just as much as anyone else. So can't fault him for that. Putting on my drawing guide so I can make sure that box for the text actually looks like a box and not some sort of disfigured rhombus from math class. That looks better. Uh, and then here, of course, in panel 4, as anyone who is familiar with the series will know, Olivia just being characteristically angry and vengeful because something is not the way that she likes it. And that includes the weather, of course. She also is not really one who gets scared when there's bad storms, but she does not like it. I think she is upset that the sky is being so noisy. It needs to stop so that she can get her nap. which is not an exaggeration, by the way. If you haven't seen any of these videos or live streams before, I know I've mentioned Olivia does, in fact, get several regular naps every day. She goes in for one in the morning, and then also again in the middle of the afternoon, because otherwise she gets very grouchy. Yeah, I'm actually gonna, almost looks like muscles. There we go. But yeah, she gets very fussy if she doesn't go in for her regular naps. And when we have really bad thunderstorms and there's a lot of noise going on, she doesn't like it because she can't sleep. She can't get her regular nap time because she is just absolutely spoiled rotten. But, we only have ourselves to blame for that. But at the same time, it keeps her happy and stops her from getting angry and destroying the house. So if we have to spoil her a little bit and put her down for a couple of regular naps, then, so be it. I'm fine with that. Which is funny, that was something that we didn't actually have to start doing until we both started working from home full time. Because before then, we were both, out physically in the office for 8, 9 hours a day. And we would come home and let her out and play with her. But during the day while we were at work, she was just in her cage getting naps the whole time. So when we first started working from home, we noticed that there were times during the day where she seemed like she was really upset about things and was just getting really irritable. And we weren't really sure why. And then we kind of had that realization of, oh, it's because we're home and walking around and she hears us and she's used to us not being around and not having, not being out all day and being active the whole time because that just wasn't a thing before. So then we started putting her in for a couple of regular naps during the day, and now she's fine. She just goes in, sleeps for a couple hours, comes out, has a snack, has playtime, goes back in for a nap, and everything's good. So it all works out. And add in one final text box here for Olivia. Erase that little dot on the roof shingles because that does not need to be there. And I think actually I'm going to add in Pippin's tail here where he's asleep. And just a little line for more of his color. There we go. There, that's better. And now I think we're ready. Now we can go ahead and start coloring that in. Go ahead and start with your well, just like the last time I did a stream one, I'm gonna just color by hand them, and each be very sure. No, we were times. with our couch buttons. Add a little bit of texture. Put in the couch leg. Yeah, I really am glad that Finn can't crawl under the couch. I just feel like that would not go well if he could, because he would 100% crawl under there and try to hide anytime there was a thunderstorm. And we just don't need that. I don't feel like having to go in there and drag him out from under the couch every time. Draw those big sad eyes. Poor guy. And I'll tell you, Finnegan is the master of giving you the sad eye when he's upset or doesn't like something. I mean, it just breaks your heart, especially when the weather's bad and it's like he's just begging you to, oh, make it stop, please make the thunder stop, and you just have to look at him and try to tell him like I can't do anything. I wish I could, and it's just it's awful. It's absolutely awful. Go ahead and add in the floor. And I know right now it kind of looks like it's just his just his eyes floating there under the couch, which is kind of weird. But if you'll just bear with me for just a sec, let me get the floorboards or the floor texture drawn. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and just do, actually, let's maybe just make that black shade, right? There we go. Just put a little bit of shading under the couch, and there you go. And actually, now I mention it, I should put a little bit of color. Not much, but just a little up there. The couch, just so it's, there we go. That looks better. Now we'll go ahead and color in Pippin. Draw him just melted there in his bed. Oh yeah, he's his ears. There we go. Now we can give him a little bit of texture to his fur. Probably don't need the brush turned up to 100. Here we go, just for a little something. Go ahead and fill in his collar. Shade that just a little bit. Remember to switch over from the more textured brush. There we go. Give him some pink for his tongue hanging out. Oh, he's just dead asleep. Let's move this all behind him for the dog bed. Make sure we get all the little nooks and crannies of that. Don't want to miss anything. Go ahead and add some texture to that as well. Shade it in a little bit more. Well, not quite that much. There we go. That looks good. Yeah, a little bit more in there. Okay. Also, before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and draw his whiskers. Definitely can't forget those. Again, I wish I could say that that was an exaggerated pose, but that is pretty much exactly what he looks like when he's asleep, when he passes out for a nap. Sure, we get fill in all those spaces for the floor behind him. Get our paintbrush. Do some. Oh, what happened? Ah, I did not lock the layer. That's why. Actually, I'm going to do wood grain coming forward. Yeah, I just like the way that looks. I think that looks better. And then we'll go ahead and actually use that brush for the shading underneath. Maybe not quite so big. There we go. There he is, just passed out. Yeah, Pippin really is just that ridiculous in real life as well. That's just how he is. If you've been to our house, if you've met him, or if you ever do meet him, yeah, that's just pretty much what he's like all the time. I always say he's like a little ball of Play-Doh. You can just pick him up and pretty much do whatever you want with him. Fill that in. So there we go. That's better. And then finally, well, actually, no. One last thing we need to do: add his speckles, of course. That's always of the utmost importance when drawing either of our dogs. Always remember the speckles. God knows they have a lot of them. Okay, now I think we're done with Pip. That means we can go ahead and move on to Olivia. We'll get what I call her eyeshadow. Uh, it's kind of funny. She actually does have a sort of natural eyeshadow color. She has this very pale blue around her eyes and on her eyelids. It's one of those things whenever people meet Olivia for the first time, they're always very surprised by just how much color she actually has in her. Because when you first see pictures of her, she looks like she's just a white bird, but she has a lot of subtle colors of pink and blues and yellows in her feathers. People don't always expect that. Go ahead and get her beak. And that's a blend of 3 different colors that I use. Yeah, even her beak has a little bit more color to it than you would first think. Those 3 together and just blend that a little. That looks better. So now, go ahead, draw the roof. Let's see, what's the right size? That might actually be just a little too dark. There, that looks better. A little bit in between shingles. There we go. Let's figure out for the sky behind her. I'll do the clouds first. I feel like that's going to be fairly easy to do. Just get that nice dark gray and give it a little bit of texturing. There we go. And I want the sky to be dark because it is supposed to be a storm, but I don't want it to be too too dark where you can't see anything. Okay, that should be okay. Start with that. Let's give that a little bit of lightning. And for this, I'm going to make sure that this layer for the lightning, this is going to be important because I want to give it that glow effect, so it looks like actual sparks of lightning. So I need to make sure that that layer is above the background of the sky, but below the clouds, so it looks like it's coming out from the clouds. kind of like that. It would help if I had the opacity turned up so you can actually see it. A couple more bolts just over here. Yeah, that looks good. And now to give it that glow effect. This is a little trick I learned. Actually, it was one of the first things I learned how to do on Procreate when I was teaching myself how to draw. It was actually it was for a lightsaber drawing that I was doing just as a way to try to teach myself some different effects. So once I have that, you're going to duplicate that a couple times and then lock those layers. I'm going to make that yellow one, or the middle one, fill with yellow. And then the bottom one, I'm actually going to fill with black for some shading. And then and turn the fill off. And then go back in to that yellow layer. We're going to blur that just a little bit. Not too much, but enough that kind of glows. We'll do, yes, do like a 12%. That looks good. And then we'll blur the black layer behind that. Not a lot, just enough to make the yellow pop a little bit. And then we're going to merge all three of those together and then duplicate it again so it's basically twice as bright now. Let's see. Let's see what happens if we duplicate it again. That's a little too much. I think just one is enough. That looks fine. Go ahead and put one more layer over top. Actually, over everything except clouds. Because it look like the rain is coming. We'll just get a very white pen. Okay, let's try this out. It's called snow, but yeah, I'm gonna see if maybe I could pass that off as rain, but maybe not. That's all part of the fun too, is just trying out different brushes and seeing what things look like. Because I mean, what I could do is I could just draw some giant cartoony, raindrops over here, and that would get across the point that, oh, it's um, I want it to look a little bit, maybe not quite so for the top cartoony. Try to make it look like actual driving rain as much as I can, if at all possible. There, something like that. And that's just the stubble brush. And I'll just go ahead and erase it, land it outside of the. We don't need that going over into the living room in panel 3. Pippin would definitely not like that, I don't think. Just make sure that we keep it out of the text box there. But I think all in all, that looks like it's raining. I'm happy with that anyway. Then the last thing to do, we're going to move this all the way to the bottom because now we're going to be coloring in all these white patches on their fur, which is technically underneath all the other color layers. Make sure we're actually using the right pen for that. Now I can go ahead. Add a little bit of shading. Didn't really except the tip of it. Should get all of Olivia's feathers. Get her head, her little crest there. All right. Looks pretty good. So I think all that really leaves us with now is just getting the text filled in. So let's go ahead and do that. Make sure we select the font that we want. Pretty self-explanatory there. The first one, it's a very simple strategy to survive a storm. Hide. Then we will move on to Pippin's preferred strategy, which, as we discussed before, is just sleep through it. Sometimes easier said than done. Then Olivia, she has her own strategy when it comes to storms, which I'm sure will not surprise anyone at all that this is her chosen method. And you know what? Now that I think about it, just real quick, I'm actually going to add a little bit of color to those text boxes. That's a little too muddy. Maybe something a little more yellow, just to make those stand out a little bit. There we go. That's better. And I'm going to give Olivia a little bit of her own. Oh, I've reached the maximum number of layers. Well, that's okay. It's a good thing I'm done coloring most of it, because this stuff I can just all merge together anyway. There we go. Now, where was I? Yes. I'm actually going to give Olivia her own little text bubble here, which if you were on Patreon or if you saw a little bit of the preview sketch before we started drawing, she's actually yelling into the clouds. So we're going to add in that text here. Maybe it would help if I can see what I'm typing. We can reposition that a little bit. That is a little too thick of a line. Add our little around that. Make sure we get that positioned correctly. There we go. Add the tail for the bubble. Make our eraser just a little bit smaller, that would help. There we go. And, you know what, why not? Let's add a little onomatopoeia. And no, I don't actually know how to spell that word. Thank you for asking. I like to say it, it's a fun word, but no, I cannot spell it. I know what it is though, which I think is probably the most important part. There we go. And then we'll just put our title text right here. No, I don't want that italic. Get that inside box. And thinking that, whoa, no. Help if we didn't fill in the whole thing. That's a little too dark, maybe a lighter blue. How about we find a shade of blue that we actually like? I think that works pretty well. And actually, now that I look at it, I am going to bold that out, readjust the size again. There we go. Just a little bit of a shadow. And there we are. That is our new comic for the week, all finished. So just real quick, again, want to say thank you to everyone who joined for the live stream, who had a chance to watch this. If you're catching this on YouTube instead over the weekend, thanks for stopping by and checking out the video. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy reading all of my Floof and Feathers comics as well. You can find those on my home website, which is floofandfeatherscomic.com. I'm also on Webtoons, like I said, here on Twitch and YouTube. You can find me on Instagram at Floof and Feathers Comic. And links to everything are both here in my Twitch profile, or again, if you're catching this on YouTube, I have links to everything below in the description. Also, if you're interested in helping to support Floof and Feathers even further, I just want to mention I do have a Patreon page that's associated with the comic series, and you can get a ton of great bonus content and rewards if you sign up there. You will get a weekly comic preview, which was always released a few days ahead of the actual finished comic strip coming out. So you'll get a sneak peek of what's coming a few days ahead of time. There are exclusive sticker packs every month that I release, as well as exclusive wallpapers that I draw. And those are only available for the month. The stickers and wallpapers, the wallpapers that are released are available in both desktop and mobile formats, just to make sure that there's something for everyone. You can also participate in reader polls when I put those up. And every month, you will have the option to select one comic from the previous month to get a physical print of that mailed right to your house. So like I said, lots of great bonus rewards and extra content to check out if you're interested. So like if you do want to help support the series even further, consider checking that out. It means a lot to us. But anyway, that kind of wraps up our little live drawing here for the week. Hope you will get a chance to check my website, and I will see everyone back here hopefully next week for another drawing live stream. But with that being said, I will say thank you and catch everyone next time.